anticlimactic main event, in my opinion, in a lot of respects. I know some people, given the controversy, I guess, are suggesting that they would like to see this fight again. I feel like I speak for a lot of people when I say I don't necessarily need to see these two women run this fight back. I mean, certainly it had its moments. You know, I didn't get to see your analysis on the post-fight show. I don't know who you think won the fight, so I guess we'll start there. From my standpoint, I thought Germaine de Randamie won the fight, but since I called it, I don't really have a lot of conviction behind that. Your thoughts on the fight, how it played out, and ultimately who you thought deserved to get the win?
Oh, first of all, Anik, are you telling me that after calling fights for 6 hours, you couldn't watch a post-fight show? You couldn't watch your buddy Florian for just a measly hour? I mean, come on, man. I get it. I think that I had Holm winning, man. I thought that the first 2 rounds was de Randamie. I thought de Randamie was taking advantage of the blitzes of Holly Holm. She was throwing combinations from way too far out. She was telegraphing everything, and de Randamie was just sitting down on that right hand and landing it again and again. And I like the adjustments that Holm made moving forward. In the third round, I really like the fact that she started finishing combinations with kicks. She was either going to the clinch or just stopping short of looking for that last punch and giving herself a little bit more space to land that left hand. She had a lot more success with it, actually dropped de Randamie to 1 knee or 2 knees at one point. And obviously, you know, we had the shots after the bell. You know, when the round ends and you see a fighter throw another shot, that should be a point deduction. Now, I don't understand, you know, how many Todd Anderson needed to see to take away a point, but certainly after 2, you got to take away a point. Obviously, that was a big controversial moment during the fight. And so the way that I scored it, it was 3, 4, and 5 for Holm, 1 and 2 for de Randamie. It wasn't the prettiest of fights, but I thought Holm made the proper adjustments to win the rounds. It was close, and you know, that's just the way I saw it. I thought it was going to go Holm's way. It did not. I thought that the fact that she was pressuring up against the cage, looking for the takedowns, landing those shots, dropping de Randamie at one point, I thought her kicking game started to land. She was doing a lot better, and de Randamie just wasn't landing as much. So that's why I had it for Holm.
And you will get no argument from me. I think there's certainly an argument to be made that Holly Holm won rounds 3, 4, and 5. I want to talk to you a little bit about the controversy, and then I've got some opinions on Holly Holm that I would like to share with you. But in terms of the lack of a point deduction, okay, so Todd Anderson, certainly a forgettable night for him. But I saw you did go back and forth with a couple of fighters on Twitter, and I know guys like Dan Hardy and others have sort of suggested that a fighter is to protect themselves until the referee intervenes, that technically, and I think even John McCarthy has said this, that the round, it's not over when the horn starts, it's not over when the horn ends, it's when the referee gets in the middle of the fighters. Now, I never understood that necessarily to be the truth, but for Todd Anderson, it seemed like the softest of warnings after she did it the first time. And then after the other round, whether it was round 3, I think it was at the end of round 3, she landed 2 shots after the final horn and still no point deduction.
Yeah.
And had there been a point deduction, we're looking at a draw and not crowning a UFC women's featherweight champion, which I think in some respects would have been disastrous, but in a lot of respects would have been justice for Holly Holm. So to me, I mean, how do you see it in terms of when the round ends and what a fighter's obligation is to sort of protect themselves from illegal strikes?
Well, listen, I think that with that in mind, it still comes down to the referee making that mistake. That, yes, a fighter does need to protect themselves at all times, before, after the bell, all that stuff. But a referee's job is to protect the fighters, and he didn't do that. He wasn't in there at the right time. And those are the kind of shots that not only can influence a round for the judges, but also hurt the fighter. You know, thankfully, it seemed like Holly Holm was able to recoup in between rounds and come back. But, I mean, the second one, man, that was brutal. And you saw her stumble big time. And maybe that affected the way she was going to fight the rest of the fight. So that really pissed me off. And, you know, I just feel like it was a big-time mistake. The point deductions should have taken place, certainly after the second one. I mean, he's waiting. You do it again, I'm going to take a point away? No, that's not the way that works. It was already done. She did it for a second time. You got to take a point away. And even the first one was justified for taking a point away. So I'm not sure the judges got it right, but I don't necessarily have an issue with it. It was close enough where you can't say one fighter was robbed or the other way around. But I don't know if I answered your question there, but that's just the way I saw it. Yeah.
So, by the way, are you working on a comeback? Were you training at like Anderson Silva's Muay Thai college over the week? What's going on?
I wasn't. Unfortunately, it's not that kind of story. I was there getting worked on actually by Anderson Silva's physiotherapist. He was working on me a little bit.
Okay.
I'm old, so he helped me feel better. But I do have a jiu-jitsu match coming up. I can't confirm it yet, but I do have a big jiu-jitsu match against a legendary Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy coming up at the end of April, which I'm very excited about. And as soon as I sign and my opponent signs, I will announce it on the Anik and Florian podcast.
Well, I was just going to say there are only two acceptable places for me to get this breaking news. Either at Kenny Florian on Twitter, and if you wanted to break the news to your 350,000 followers, that's fine with me. But it can't be on like flowcombat.com or something, right? It's got to be on at Kenny Florian or on this podcast. But you have signed a bout agreement.
I'm supposed to be getting one in the next couple days. So
okay,
yeah, man. I'm excited.
They pay the man. Well, because I know you've obviously been training jiu-jitsu, but then I saw you at a striking gym, and I'm like, oh my goodness gracious,
what's he doing? What's this old guy doing?
Hey, I know FS1 is starved for UFC main events right now. Like we need headliners, Ken Flo. So back to Todd Anderson, right? So Todd Anderson, he's worked some UFC shows in the past. I know he did the Albany Fight Pass show December 9th, flew to Toronto the next day and did that pay-per-view. I'm not sure if he's ever worked a UFC main event before. I don't think he has. I guess what I would like to see, and again, this New York Athletic Commission has had myriad issues through these first three UFC shows, but if Dan Murgliata or a veteran referee is working the show, I think I would like to see the guy who has the most experience work the main event, right? And I think that's a reasonable request. You have your most experienced referee do the main event. So totally shocking that Todd Anderson didn't take a point away. I have to say, though, in terms of Holly Holm, Kenny, the last time you and I worked one of her fights together was in San Diego against Marion Renault. And during the entire post-fight interview, Holly is being roundly booed after a win, right? Yep. And obviously her style that night did not appeal to the crowd at all, despite it was a win over Marion Renault, but it wasn't necessarily the type of performance that people had come to expect from Holly Holm. But I just think now when you look at her career, save for the night against Ronda Rousey, an inexperienced striker, right?
Yep.
When you look now at the body of work for Holly Holm, obviously it was somewhat of a Hail Mary loss to Miesha Tate. The Shevchenko certainly was a clear loss. This fight, a little bit controversial in terms of the decision and some of the stuff that happened in the middle. But in the books, it's a 3-fight losing streak, and I just feel like some of the MMA evolution for Holly Holm hasn't been there. She made her pro debut in 2011. She only went full-time in MMA in 2013. She's one of the sweetest 5 people I've met in my life.
Yes.
But from a style standpoint, Kenny, I feel like a lot of it is like shadow kickboxing and not really trying wholeheartedly to hit the target with every time she's striking. Like, I just don't feel like there's a lot of power in her hands. I feel like when it comes to her grappling, she's been working with the great Izzy Martinez for years, but yet on 9 or 10 takedown attempts, she can't take down a non-grappler in Germaine Randamie. I mean, I just feel like there were things that Holly Holm maybe should have accomplished this night that she was unable to do so, and I think my opinion on her MMA legacy is a little bit changed now going forward. I mean, I hope that doesn't come across as being too critical, but I don't know, man. I feel like she's still a work in progress.
It's interesting because I kind of share those same sentiments, and it's not necessarily a knock on Holly Holm. I think the frustration, I can speak for myself on this, it might be the same for you, but is that she has much more potential. She can do more than what she's showing, and I think her style is a little bit to blame for that. I think one of the main issues is with her stance, and Connor Rebush did a great article on it, of how her head is a little bit too far forward. So it's hard to get a lot of power off of her punches because there's no utilization of her rear leg. But the reason, and Connor didn't talk about this in his article, but the reason why she is very far forward is because she's trying to counter. She's trying to slip her head to the right to land that cross. And that works very well in boxing, and it works well for kickboxing when you're throwing your left roundhouse kick. But she's just had a problem with range, in finding her range. It seems like she's always just short of her target. And like you said, you made a reference to her kind of shadow boxing out there. It's just a very weird style, very unorthodox style, and it hasn't transitioned very well over to mixed martial arts at the highest levels in the UFC. Now, I do think that there's a little bit of a mental block that's going on there. I think she's very, very tight. Now, because she's tight, she's not getting a lot of power in her punches. She's not very loose with her shots, so she's tensing up a lot, and I think it's that nervous energy, and you saw it, especially early on. She was not doing well. She was attacking for no reason early in that second round. There was no rhyme or reason to what she was doing. And once she settled down in that third round, we saw kind of Holly Holm come back a little bit. Now, a lot of it has to do with her counter-striking style. And she was offering up a lot of offense against Randamie, and it just wasn't working. Holly Holm is a counter-striker. That's when she's at her best. Right. She wasn't waiting for Randamie. She was the one initiating the offense, and it just wasn't working for her. And now, if you get a fighter who doesn't initiate a lot of offense, it's not the most exciting thing. I mean, look at Mayweather. Mayweather may be the best boxer of all time, but as far as style and getting excited for a Mayweather fight and expecting a knockout, it's probably not going to happen. It doesn't mean they're a bad fighter, but excitement-wise, she doesn't bring that kind of energy that, say, a Cyborg brings, right?
That is good technical analysis out of you. I mean, that is free, by the way. In 2017, can you believe you don't have to pay to get that analysis from Kenny Florian? That's because we love our Anakin Florian podcast listeners so much. But you hit on a lot of things, and sort of underlying there was sort of some of the inefficiency for Holly Holm. You know, I'm not the biggest stats guy in the world, okay, when it comes to MMA, and the majority of the UFC shows that I have called internationally on FS1, as you well know, Kenny, we don't even have the stats monitor. It's not even a part of the broadcast. And sometimes I think that's a blessing in disguise because you don't get so caught up in what the numbers tell you. But in this fight in particularly, at least, the numbers told you that Germaine de Randamie was very efficient with her significant strike attempts and that Holly Holm was just not efficient at all. And that's what I was sort of saying, some of the shadow boxing stuff, you know, as she presses forward with her Monica Seles level grunts. I mean, is she really even trying to hit the target, or is it just a means to set up something else? So it goes into the books. Germaine de Randamie is the inaugural UFC women's featherweight champion. She's a sweetheart of a girl. You know, I'm not going to say whether or not the late strikes in round 3 were intentional or not. I really would like to give her the benefit of the doubt when it comes to that, but she was so loose and affable during fight week and really embraced the moment, and I'm happy for her and her family that she gets to take that UFC title home. But I don't think it left the greatest